Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to our Wild Weather Wednesdays. And I tell you, I love doing these, and I probably don't do them often enough because it's fun to get to interview some of our staff members and some different folks around. And I'm lucky today to pull in meteorologist Erin Reeves, who is I'd say the latest addition. We spoke with Megan Gold last week. She's also new, and it was very unusual where we'd have two meteorologists coming on board basically at the same time. Usually it's a very spaced out time period because people's contracts and all that go for extended periods of time. And so it's just a little bit unique that we're in that situation. And Megan's interview, by the way, last week does reside at newson6.com. And I hope you take time to see that. She has quite an interesting life. And we're going to talk about Erin today, but it's just going to point out that she's Miss Oklahoma. So if you don't see her, it's probably because she's doing Miss Oklahoma stuff. So she's here, but she isn't. Erin, on the other hand, is here. And even though he's Mr. Skytook, he's not planning on traveling around the state from what I understand. But Erin, welcome to our Wild Weather Wednesdays. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Trap. Thanks for having me. And you don't have to worry about me entering any pageants. That's not quite my thing.
Okay. Yeah, you have a little bit of farm boy in you. So not to say that somebody that's from a farm wouldn't be in a pageant, but I don't see you in pageants, really.
No, okay. Not really my cup of tea.
Okay. Speaking of which, obviously you just joined us, and I'll just say a couple of things. First of all, we've known Erin for quite a while, long time, I would say. He had the opportunity. I said we had the opportunity to have him as an intern many moons ago. Was that about 10 years ago? 11, 12?
More like 12.
12. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
I came back 10 years ago and helped with weather camps and stuff while I was in between things, but
there you go. That okay. We'll give that half credit for me on that. Just like a forecast. Well, it did turn daylight during the day, so I got that. Anyway, we are talking though that we've known Erin for a long time. He's worked around. We're going to talk to him about where he's worked and all that. He has been at Channel 8 most recently, and doing a great job there. I had the opportunity to see him several times, and it's like, man, I wish he was working here too. And so we were fortunate enough, and things just worked out to where Erin has the opportunity to be with us now. So again, I'm very happy about that. Now, to start off with, we want to find out a little bit more about Mr. Erin. And so Erin, if you would take us through, I'm not going to say from the very time you were born, but where were you born and how did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Tulsa here at St. John Hospital. I grew up in Skytook. My family's been in Skytook for a long, long time, and went to Skytook High School. From there, I went to college for a couple of years at Coffeyville Community College and ran track. And then after that, went to the University of Louisiana at Monroe. And that's where I ended up getting my meteorology degree. It's kind of funny, me being from Oklahoma and going out of state to get a weather degree, but track and field made that a little bit more financially suitable. And I kind of wanted to get out of state and experience some other places. So that was a good fit for me. I enjoyed my time down in Louisiana. The food's good. Music's good. It was a good time. But did grow up around farming. My family has a cattle farm in between Seminole and Prague. And then more locally in the Skytook area, excuse me, I grew up, we harvested wheat and soybeans and did some hay, things of that nature. So I've done a little bit of all of the stuff.
Yeah, that's okay. Got a frog in
here. Just thinking of baling hay got my throat stuffed up. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, you got to have water with you at all times or whatever. Yeah, some drinks here. But I'm going to ask you just a few more questions because you kind of strolled right through some of those or went right through a few things. But obviously in your time of growing up in Skytook, now your family, I'm not going to call your family famous, but I think they do have some famous, some people have told me that you have family that is pretty impressive. Can you tell me about your family a little bit more?
Well, my dad's, he might be more well-known in Skytook than me. He coached football and wrestling there for over 30 years. My mom taught second grade. So, I mean, anyone that went through Skytook schools between really the 70s when he was there, he was a sports star there, wrestling and football. So anyone from like the early 70s all the way through when he retired about 6-7 years ago would know my dad or my mom. They might have had her in second grade. So we don't go anywhere where just as many people know them as me or more right now. So
I was going to say, obviously so. And so he did wrestling and football, but you ended up in track. Now, was he disappointed? Did he want you wrestling or what?
He didn't mind either way. I mean, I wrestled in high school. I just took more to track and then actually golf as well. Those were what I would consider the two sports that I was geared more towards, that I enjoyed the most. But I did wrestling, and I think as long as I was enjoying my sports experience, whatever sport that was, he was pretty good with it.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what made you interested in weather. Why did that become your life's dream? As far as when did it become your life's dream? And tell me a little bit more about that, if you would.
Well, that came from a pretty early age, and there was a couple of things with that. So the first thing was my granddad. He was the person that ran our family farm with the cattle down in the Prague area. And him being from a farming background and running cattle, he was real into the weather. And he even said that he wanted to, pursue something weather related for a career, but his parents wouldn't really let him go to college because they needed him on the farm. So he never made that happen. But he was always talking about the weather, watching the weather. He was pretty into it and pretty knowledgeable about it. Then the other thing that went into that was being from Skytook. I was a 6-year-old boy on April 26, 1991, which was kind of a big time tornado outbreak. Of course, Andover, Red Rock, Skytook, Ulaga. The tornado in Skytook that night, the F4, didn't hit my house, but being a 6-year-old kid watching the coverage on TV and knowing that that's not very far away from possibly hitting our house, we didn't know what was going to happen, but that kind of drew me in as well, coupled with the grandpa thing.
Oh yeah, I can totally understand that. And that probably stands out as probably one of the more amazing events too that I witnessed from while I was working, and I could only imagine what it'd be like for a young person getting to see that firsthand. So that had to be pretty impressive. Now, I want you to take me into your college time, and so you did go out of state, and you said it was kind of interesting, but you ended up apparently when you went to the University of Louisiana Monroe, you had a track scholarship, so you obviously did well in high school, right?
Yeah, I was a state qualifier in the pole vault. I actually really more blossomed in college than I did in high school athletically. But once I get into college, they're like, you know what? You're like decent at a bunch of things, but not like just stand out at anyone thinks. They're like, we're going to move you toward the decathlon. So I ended up doing the decathlon in college as my main event. And within that, I was more of a sprinter jumper type. So like my better events were the long jump, the 100, the pole vault. Those were kind of more my cup of tea as far as the events go. I was pretty undersized. I mean, decathlon guys are usually, especially once I got to ULM at the Division I level, I mean, I was looking up to all those guys because most, kind of a typical decathlete is going to be, 6'2", 6'3", 185 pounds or so. And I was 5'9", 155. So I was pretty undersized, but made it work.
Yeah. That's all right. And then for those who don't know the definition of decathlon, can you just give folks what that is?
So it's kind of like you have to be pretty good at multiple things because you're doing 10 events of track and field. You're doing multiple disciplines of sprinting, jumping, throwing, and a little bit of mid-distance. So you have to be kind of decent at a lot of different things. And you do 5 events over a day over 2 days. So you got 10 events total. And however good you do as far as your time or your distance or your height, you score points off of a table, and whoever has the most points at the end of that thing wins. And that's kind of how the decathlon works. Okay. But it's always the same order of events every time, so you're preparing for the same thing every time you do it. But it's definitely pretty tough to prepare for.
I would think so. It just seems like such a variety of things you have to be specialized in order to pull that off. So I thought that was interesting. Now, I'm going to move a little bit more into, we're going to move into your personal. We've already talked about your family life per se. But now we're going to talk about your personal family life because you kind of, apparently there was a little bit of romance thing going on while explain what happened, how you found your wife.
All right. So I was coaching at Coffeyville Community College. I've, obviously worked professionally as a meteorologist over the past 10 years at different capacities. But during that time as well, I've coached college track and field, and we'll probably talk more about that in a little bit. But I was coaching at Coffeyville, and I had this mutual friend with the person that's now my wife that had wanted to hook us up long before we ran into each other all the same time this day. But we were at a track meet in Joplin at Missouri Southern, the state school there in Joplin. And I just finished coaching long jump. And this friend I know, she was there. She was still competing post collegiately. She was entered in the meet, and she grabbed me and said, "Hey, I want you to come meet my friend, Alex." And I was like, "Okay." So she goes and introduces me to her friend, and I was like, "Cool." And I walk away, and she was like, "So what did you think of Alex?" I was like, "Yeah, she seemed cool." And come to find out, like that was the person that she'd wanted to hook me up with. I didn't know about it at the time, but we ended up talking, Alex and I, and went on our first date like a week later, and then a few years later we got married. But she had ran track at Missouri State University in Springfield, and she had finished up and was coaching with another smaller university in the area, and was there coaching at the meet, and that's how we met. But yeah, she's just recently moved over here, and getting used to living in Oklahoma now.
Well, the one thing you said, that the Bahamas are at least are very warm and humid, so
Yes.
she had a running head start on this one.
Yes, she's used to heat. I mean, she's used to summer times with like low 90s and dew points in the low 80s. So I mean, that's pretty stuffy. So.
But what about the winters? I want to know how she really feels about Oklahoma winters.
Yeah, the winters aren't the thing. I mean, you go down there in the wintertime, it's like 70 degrees. It's nice most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, we're excited for you, especially, and you're, I think you're kind of back in the home area. Are you kind of residing back in the Skiatook region?
Yeah. We live just on the southwest side of town there in Skiatook, pretty near really not too far from my parents, so it's a good spot.
Yep, hometown boy comes back, and that is fantastic. I'm so glad that you're here in Tulsa as well. Now, tell me a little bit as well. You've held a few jobs. I know that while you were in between some jobs, you worked for the Tulsa Zoo for a little while, right?
Yeah, I actually worked, when you span it all out, 15 total years at the Tulsa Zoo. It was my summer job. I started after my freshman year of college. I would work there in the summers, and then after I became a professional guy, I was living in Coffeyville and Tulsa at different times, and Topeka for a little bit. But I would still be able to. I kept tabs with my boss there and was pretty good, close with him, and he would let me come back kind of whenever I wanted and work. So like I would come back for like Halloween or spring break week, or do some weekend stuff or some of their evening events that they run during the latter part while I was doing other main jobs. But I drove the train there. I operated the carousel and did some other things. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, that's why I kept going back there even when I didn't really need it. I mean, I would go work, 10, 15 days a year as an adult there just because it was fun to go out at the zoo and drive the train,
Okay. Tell me about drive. You got to tell me about driving the train. That would have to be pretty wild. Was that fun, or did it ever break down, or did you?
Oh, it broke down. Every once in a while, it'll pop off the tracks. That happened a couple of times. That was always stressful. But it was hot. Like this time of year, it'd be real hot because you're setting the engine's right underneath. In that picture, you can see there, like I'm sitting right on top of the engine. So, I mean, it gets pretty hot during times like this. But no, it was a lot of fun. It's pretty simple to drive. It's just kind of like a boat throttle. You just put it in gear and just push the thing forward, and it takes off.
And you're going. Well, that's pretty cool. Then you also, besides the Tulsa Zoo, most recently, I mean, you've been a track coach at Coffeyville, and then you also had the opportunity to come back into Tulsa and then do some track work, right?
Right. So I spent after college, I graduated. I interned at Channel 6, and then after that, I got a job for 2 years. I was up in Topeka at a TV station there. Then once that kind of wound down, I took a job. I was looking for a job, and this Coffeyville opportunity came up. So I worked at Coffeyville for 6 years, coaching track. I coached golf for a little bit as well. Coached some phenomenal athletes at junior college. Junior college is like a place where people that don't have quite what they need, but are good enough athletes to go to the Division I level or high, they'll end up at JUCO for a little while. And so we had a lot of like Division I caliber athletes. The most notable of those was Andre DeGrasse. Came there for 2 years, had just started track, ended up winning an Olympic gold medal last year in Tokyo in the 200. And he also had 3 other medals. And then he was a medalist multiple times in Rio. So he's got, I think, six Olympic medals, some world championship medals. He's kind of a big deal in the world of track now. And his arch rival, his freshman year at Coffeyville, if you're a football fan, you're going to know this name, was Tyreek Hill. He raced him twice, regional championships and the national championships. Andre beat him both times. So Tyreek can be chased down and beaten.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill has a pretty familiar name. So tell us a little bit about Tyreek just for a second so that everybody knows, because I don't want to, because was that OSU or was it?
He went to OSU. He started out at Garden City Community College. He went to OSU and got some stuff and ended up transferring out of OSU because of that. But he was a star kick returner and receiver at OSU for a year or two. And he was a great junior sprinter for Team USA. Now, obviously, he most recently was a superstar for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then now he's with the Miami Dolphins. So he's not a very big dude. I mean, I'm not very tall, and he's shorter than I am. I remember walking right by him at the national meet. He's not. I mean, he's a muscular guy, but he's not very tall.
All right. Now I'm going to take it just a couple more steps here, and then we'll. Again, I wanted to thank all the folks for watching this, and we're talking to Aaron Reeves, one of the newest meteorologists here at Channel 6. Very excited to have Aaron with us as well. And so, with some of the things that you have done, what were probably the most impressionable ones outside of being young when you were 6 years old in the April 1991 event? What are some of the more recent events in terms of weather that really stuck out in your mind?
I worked a tornado event when I was in Kansas. It was kind of like my first big one as a meteorologist. It was a F3 tornado that hit Reading, Kansas, and there was a few others that time. And then more recently, last October, there was we had a pretty big tornado October week there that was kind of crazy, and that was probably the more recent one that kind of stands out because that was pretty exhausting, pretty crazy. Those are probably two of the more intense ones that I've worked recently. Well, one's not recent, one's 10 years ago, but the first one and then the most recent one, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fine. And by the way, if you have any questions for Aaron right now, while we're on Facebook Live, this will reside on newson6.com as well. And you'll be able to, if you have friends, say, hey, that interview with Aaron, he's from SkyTook, and you'll be able to catch this interview completely coming up on newson6.com, where, as I said, it'll be hanging out. But if you do have a question right now for the next few minutes and you want to try to get it answered while Aaron's here with us live, this would be the time to go ahead and do that. One of the things, Aaron, that as we're looking at pretty much your career here, Aaron is working the evening shows. I know that you had been at the other TV station, been working morning shows, and now you're working evening shows. You're working our Saturday and Sunday evening shows, and then also filling in. For example, a station was on vacation, and I think I had something going on, and you were on this past week. I think it was one of Brian Dorman's last nights or before he left. So what do you think about coming back to the Big Six?
It's exciting. I mean, I interned here, had a couple of stints. We used to watch Jim growing up, and so it's pretty cool to come back and kind of end up back where I really kind of would consider where I started. This was kind of coming out of college, the first place I went before I went to Kansas. It's pretty cool.
And I tell you, we're going to tell you one funny thing about Aaron too, is that when he was helping us with our wild weather camps, there's a guy named Tom that helped us, or that was part of our staff here. And Tom and I would just be looking in amazement because Aaron doesn't walk when he does anything. He runs, and he's a runner, I guess. So maybe that's why he runs, but he would run from one thing to pick up whatever it was. I mean, if we needed a balloon, he sprinted across the auditorium to go get it and sprinted right back. And I was like, dude, do you ever slow down? He says, I'm not doing anything unusual. But Aaron, your life right now, I think I was talking to you last night. You said that you're still staying in shape, obviously.
Yeah.
But and you were running last night in the heat?
Yeah, I still stay active. And right now my life's probably as calm as it's ever been because for the first time in 10 years, I'm not working two jobs. So, because even after the Coffeyville, when I came back to Tulsa and was living in Tulsa, I was coaching at ORU. So my days were pretty jam-packed from working the morning show and then coaching at ORU all afternoon. And so busy. I'd finally actually get tired. You probably would have never seen me like that. But I still run and still try to stay in shape. Last night, Trav's mentioning running last night. I had a workout that I was going to do, and it's on my schedule of what I planned. So, I'm going to do it, no matter what's going on outside. And I waited until about 8 o'clock. It was a workout where I was running 400-meter intervals at a pace, but I got 4 minutes rest in between, so I could kind of work my way through it and manage it that way. Even though it was hot, I still took precautions, and I'm kind of conditioned to running in the heat. So
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
made it work. It kind of took it a little easy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, to be young again, to be able to do those crazy things. I don't know if I ever did that when I was young, though. So I don't know. That seems like a lot of pain and agony, but you're staying in good shape, and that's what matters the most. And tell me one more thing before we'll let folks go here. The ORU. So you got to coach ORU for how long did you do that? And what was your title, and what did you have to complete there?
I was there for 4 years. So I was at Coffeyville for 6 years, and through some of the success we had there, I got the opportunity to come coach Division 1. So I took it, and it was in my hometown. So why, can't beat that. And I did that for 4 years. I was the horizontal jumps, and I coached high jump. And then if we had any throwers, I coached the throwers as well. And it was a lot of fun. It was busy, but like it was a lot of fun. You get to go travel all over the place. I mean, I got to go to California, to Texas, Nebraska, North Dakota, the southeastern United States, just for track, and that was a lot of fun. Getting to just be paid to go be at these high level track meets. At these awesome, big time universities. It was really cool, and we had some good athletes there. I had a picture there with a young lady. She was my most recent beast athlete. She was made it to first rounds of nationals. Shalom in the long jump, and just to give you an idea how good she is, she jumped about 20 feet, 11 inches is how far she jumped.
Wow.
So she was a beast. And I had another guy that made it to the NCAA finals. The first year I was there in the triple jump, indoors and outdoors. And I had a good javelin thrower this past couple of years too that made it to the first round of nationals. So it was definitely a lot of fun. We had a fun staff to work with there, and I enjoyed my time there. And that just wrapped up this past spring as Coach Dial retired and moved on. So.
All right. Well, you have definitely had quite the career between running and weather so far.
Yeah.
I look forward to years and years of you being here and doing great things as well. And again, for folks, Aaron Reeves, one of our newest meteorologist additions to the News on 6. And so again, Aaron, we welcome you with open arms because we're so glad you're here, because I know Stephen, Alan, Stacia, and myself were all like, please bring us somebody we were praying a lot, say, bring us somebody who's great. And so we're very happy that you're part of our staff and look forward to many times. And if, for those of you that are watching, again, Aaron's on during the Saturday and Sunday evenings. And once in a while, sports gets in the way of the Saturday early evening ones, especially once we get back to college football. But overall, you'll be able to catch him during that time period. And then during the week, he helps a lot with graphics and graphics production and ideas on what to do. And also we'll have some stories for us as well. So again, Aaron, thank you so much for being my guest today. I really, really appreciate that. And
No problem.
you got any final statements you want to make about your show or about any of the things that we talked about?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. I'm just excited to be here, be back where I started. I mean, I've obviously, you kind of helped Tom. You mentioned Tom helped get me into the business professionally, and I appreciate it. And I'm glad to be back and excited for the future.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. And thank you for everyone who was watching. And remember, again, if you do have some friends that weren't watching, you can tell them, hey, check it out and meet the hometown boy, Aaron. And again, thank you guys. And thanks to everyone for watching. Take care and try to stay cool because we still have the ozone alert in effect. I was just listening to Stephen doing an update on radio, and we still have our excessive heat warning, and temperature still this afternoon will be around 105, 106. And we can only hope and pray for an isolated storm, but we'll be talking more about that tonight during our newscast and weathercast. So take care and have a blessed afternoon.